So I'm joined today by Fran from Murphy & Son, and we're going to talk about the super interesting topic of finings.
Yes.
So Fran, take us through the options. There's a lot of options for different use rates and at different stages, so a little bit of help in explaining it to the viewers.
Sure. So I categorise the finings range into three, which is Kettle Finings for removing proteins from the wort. I then have another category which is auxiliary finings, which complements Isinglass, which is another finings, and finds out proteins on cool down. And then another one is Isinglass, which removes yeast. We'll also then discuss an alternative to Isinglass, which is Super F, which is a vegan substitute. Kettle Finings, we have Protofloc and Copper Clear.
What's the difference?
So Protofloc is semi-refined and Copper Clear is refined. So it's the Copper Clear is actually more superior than the Protofloc.
Okay.
The most common one we sell is the Protofloc.
Yeah. We have Copper Finings Optimization kits in stock. Would you recommend brewers use them?
Totally. I always recommend that a brewer should do an optimization every time they have new season's malt, every time they change recipe, every time if they have a different member of staff, it might be a good idea, or change vessels.
Okay.
So all those times, I think they should have an optimization. As you know, malts are a natural occurring product, so the proteins and the glucans and everything like that are going to be different each batch.
Yeah,
so it's very important that you do these optimizations. I remember having to do optimizations in the lab when I started working at Murphy's, and I just thought, why don't we just replicate what we do and put it all in a bucket and send it over to customers so that they can do it.
You've got your optimization kit and you're wanting to obviously optimize your finings. If someone uses Protofloc, for example, say they use the tablet, so they grind up the tablet to get weigh it out, what's the ratio that they should be
So
using?
what you'd do is you'd get the tablet and you would weigh 500 grams per litre.
Okay.
And then what you would have to do is
work that ratio back.
Back, and I'll explain that in a second. So you get a 0.1% solution, and then what you'll do is you'll boil that solution.
Okay.
Carrageenan is active when it has to be gelatized first, so it has to be boiled.
Okay.
And then it works on cool down.
Okay.
So the best thing to do is boil, and it's got to be a rolling boil for a good 5 minutes for it to become a suitable solution for the optimization.
Okay.
You then get 9 measuring cylinders out of your bucket, and you label them 0 for control, 5 parts per million, 10 parts per million, 15 parts per million, 20 parts per million, 25 and 30.
Yeah.
And then what you will do is you add
like a syringe solution to each
a syringe, a syringe solution in each one, 0.5 mil in one cylinder, 1 mil in another, 1.5, 2, so on.
Yeah.
You then would add the boiling water to the cylinders,
and
then what you do is you check for a hot break.
Is it a visual check?
It's a visual check. It's just a visual check to see that the carrageenan is working and it's active.
So you've said, Fran, that you see the control and all the different dosage rate samples sitting, you're doing your visual check. What's the next stage? The
next stage is to leave those cylinders on the windowsill or light box, whatever you've got, overnight.
Okay.
And then in the morning you come in, and you check the sediment of each cylinder.
Okay.
So you can have silty sediment, granular sediment, fluffy sediment. And what we're looking for is in between of granular, silty, maybe granular and fluffy.
Okay.
We're looking for the most clearest wort. What we don't want is fluffy bottoms.
Okay.
So that if the sediment's fluffy, that means that the wort is overfined and it could cause a haze as a
finished product. Yeah. The reason it's important to do an optimization test is it solves problems before they begin.
Exactly,
That's why I'm encouraging you guys to do these tests. So if you follow good practical procedures in optimizing your fining regime. I can nearly speak. If you follow good optimization procedure in your fining regime, it stops problems occurring further on down the line. That's why we're encouraging you to do this. It's not to try and sell you an extra product. It's not to add to an already difficult schedule of brewing. It just will make your life easier as the brew length goes forward. So
totally.
You'd mentioned kettle finings. So we've got the refined, unrefined.
Yeah, so yeah, the Kettle Finings, we have the refined and the semi-refined. So the semi-refined is Protafloc, and then you've got the copper clear, which is refined.
Yeah.
And then they come in tablets or they come in granules.
Okay.
And what's the difference? If you can't be bothered to weigh out the granules, count in tablets. That's the only reason. It's
so just
purposes
for
of
ease.
people just, for ease.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to get the granules, obviously, because they're not processed. The tablets are 65% active because the rest is the tableting aids. You've got to bear that in mind if you're doing any optimizations and you're using granules instead of tablets.
Okay. What's the next section of finings then?
Okay, so the next one I would talk about is auxiliary, and this is added straight after fermentation on cool down.
Okay.
What happens naturally on cool down of beer, proteins come out in suspension.
Yeah.
So we try to promote the brewer to go down as cold as possible, and some of my brewers can't get down that far. The furthest they can go is 5 degrees, which if they can go lower, brilliant.
Okay,
So the lower you go, more proteins come out in suspension. Also, because of the cool down, the current in there is really good for the auxiliary to mix in.
Okay. So,
for example, if you find your beer at 5 degrees, but it's been exposed in the cellar at 2 degrees, protein will come out. You'll have a protein haze.
Okay.
So it's really good to make sure that you mimic the temperatures that your beer will be exposed to.
Okay,
for when you're fining.
Without going too far off topic, we have found Super F works exceptionally well at 5 degrees.
Yes. Okay.
For some reason, like we would try and crash in our own brewery down to 0, and let it sit at 0 conditioning before we get it ready for packaging. But Super F, we just found that a little sweet spot for it. Worked at 5 degrees.
It's weird with Super F. It has different. It works well at certain pH and a certain yeast count and a certain temperature, and it's different for all breweries because the environment's different everywhere you go. Yeah. And so lots of factors can create what's ideal for Super F in your brew house.
What auxiliary finings do you have? So,
auxiliary finings, we have quite a few. So we have our main one and the most popular one is Finings Agent.
Okay.
Which is a acidified. Yeah. Acidified silica. Acidified silica, and the product is called Finings Agent. And then the next one is we have a acidified polysaccharide, which is Alginex. Yeah. And then we have a combination of both, which is Celebrite.
Okay.
So Celebrite is very, very similar to Finings Agent, except it's got one active ingredient in it. And so what makes you just choose over Celebrite and Finings Agent is if you've got more hard to find beer, then it might be a good idea to use Celebrite because it finds quicker. Okay. It's got a sticky substance in there that helps bind those bottoms as well of the sediment.
And finings are for clarity mainly. Is there any other benefits to finings other than for clarity, or is it to help with shelf life? Does it help with stability?
It helps with stability because it will fine out all those proteins that cause micro problems, spoilage, whatever you call it. It improves extract of your beers. And it really complements the Isinglass for when you're removing the yeast as well. Yeah. Because it will create larger aggregates. So is it a lot quicker.
Is it fair to say auxiliary finings are for removing proteins more
Yes.
so than yeast?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So that's why you approach a fining regime with multiple tools. Like maybe you would hit it with Algenex first, and or auxiliary finings, and then hit it with Isinglass or Super F as a secondary. Is that?
Well, what it is yeah, you would. I think an ideal brewer, you'd use something to remove the yeast, and then you'd use something as well to remove the proteins.
Yeah.
So if you were to use Isinglass or Super F, you would use auxiliary finings
as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it complements and it gives that polished finish.
What's the role in, would auxiliary go first and then Isinglass
Yes.
secondary?
Well, that's what I recommend, because it's on cool down. It's the ideal. It's an ideal stage to put it in. So auxiliary, always add it on cool down.
Just as you start cooling?
Yes, as you
crash.
do, yeah, because then the current
Okay.
will help mix it in.
Okay.
It's really important not to add it at the same time as Isinglass, because Isinglass has a positive charge
Yeah.
and auxiliary fining has a negative charge.
Okay.
And so they would just join together and form like a
Clump.
party.
Yeah.
And you won't find out any of the other stuff. So, yeah.
Time frame for doing this, what are we talking? So auxiliary, do you allow 24, 48 hours before you hit with?
Just overnight,
Yeah.
and then we tend to recommend you do the auxiliary finings on cool down,
Once you
and then
hit-
Isinglass or Super F, depending what you want to go for. I recommend at racking or as you're packaging.
Okay. Let's look at, so we've went down the route of Isinglass. There's lots of different options of Isinglass. We have finest, triple,
Yep.
a paste version.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
so
not as difficult as it sounds. So basically, our range is finest range, and what the active ingredient of the collagen is, we get it from the swim bladder of a fish.
But you're using a waste product or a byproduct. It's not like a diffuser.
No, the fish is used, sold and eaten by, consumed.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't waste any of the fish or anything like that.
Yeah.
We just use a tiny part of the fish, which is the swim bladder, and it's the active collagen that we use. It's got a positive charge, and what it will do is attract to the negative charge of the yeast and drag it down.
So if you don't want to use Isinglass, you have a solution for that as well?
Yeah, if you don't want to use animal-based products, we do have Super F, which is a silica-based.
Yeah, it's a great product. That's it's doing really well for us.
It works really fast and it's quite good, and it's also really good for unsettling and settling beers and stuff. So yeah. We released it 10 years ago, and it's ever evolving to make it better and better.
Yeah.
So we always readdress it and make sure I'll do a bit of tweaking and stuff. Get the best out of it.
So if we're optimizing our copper finings, we should find that it's easier to manage the fining in the tank, in the fermenter.
Yes.
So if you have a good process using it at multiple stages, you'll end up with a really well finished, polished beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Isinglass range you wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah.
So we've got the finest range. So anything that's Isinglass we call the finest range.
Yeah.
We have a ready-for-use product, which is the finest RFU.
Yeah.
And then we have triple strength. The reason why we've got triple strength is so that a customer can buy 75 litres, but in 125 litre jerry can.
Okay.
So it just helps out with storage, etc.
Yeah.
But when you're buying or choosing which Isinglass to go for and which concentration you go for, you've got to remember that Isinglass is structure dependent.
Okay.
The first thing to go in time is that structure, and so it can deactivate. So it's really important to appreciate the 8-week shelf life that is on Isinglass.
Yeah.
So you don't want to overbuy something and then have to throw it all away because it's gone out of date.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there's a paste version where people can make up their own.
Yes, it's called
Isinglass.
Cask-clear Paste.
Yeah.
So basically, I think it's 1 part paste, 29 parts water.
Okay.
It's got a 6-month shelf life, so you can put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
But once you add water to it, so you'd just make a litre at a time or whatever you need.
Yeah.
That would then kick in the 6-week shelf life on that.
Okay.
But the rest of it in the fridge will remain being 6 months.
Yeah. So the finings, Isinglass isn't just for cask beer. It can be used for all.
Oh, totally, yeah, for cask-conditioned and what do you call it? Not cask-conditioned. What's the other thing?
No, are you thinking bright beer?
Yeah.
Bright beer. So what I want to highlight here is that, you know, for example, did you say cask clear?
Cask clear paste.
So cask clear paste isn't just for casks.
No, it's just because that was the original name when it was used for casks. So yeah, it's used for all tank beers as well.
Okay, perfect. Anything else you want to add about Finings?
Yeah, we've got the Magic Hole, which is a just our granulated flock version of Isinglass. It comes with a little bag of citric acid, and you mix it with water, and it's 6 grams makes a litre of it.
And why would you use Magic Hole instead of
If you're
Isinglass?
a very small brewer and you don't use Isinglass a lot and you can't cope with the 8-week shelf life, this product, off the record, used to be indefinite.
Yeah.
You've got to put a shelf life on it now, so it's 2 year shelf life. But you can make just enough and have a large shelf life.
Okay, yeah. So there's a solution there for everybody's needs.
Yes.
That's why there's all these different products.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. So there's a purpose for them. It's not just...
Yes, it's not because we're bored and we want to, have more products on the list.
Yeah. I think we've covered, so we did copper, Finings, how to optimise them. We've looked at the auxiliary, Isinglass, the Super F vegan version of Isinglass. Any tips you would give people in relation to fining beer?
Well, yeah, I recommend that, like the Kettle Finings, your Isinglass and your auxiliary, or your Super F and your auxiliary, need to be optimised as well.
Okay.
Very similar method to the Kettle Finings regime. I can send out how-to sheets about how to do that, and it's very important to do your optimisation on auxiliary and Isinglass at least twice a year.
Okay.
If you're not going to do it at all. If you change recipe or change machines or vessels, then I would do an optimisation again.
Okay.
Focus on the yeast count as well. So if your yeast count differs, then it may be a good idea to do another optimisation.
Okay.
If you're unsure of the shelf life of your Isinglass, which you shouldn't, because we've got batch numbers on there and you should know, but it might be a good idea to have a go with an optimisation to see if it's active.
Yeah.
Another thing is with Super F, if you're going to use Super F, I would optimise a lot more than you would with Isinglass.
Okay.
Just because it can be a little bit temperamental with yeast counts and the pH and temperature in the environment.
If you find all of this overwhelming, there's full technical support available from the Murphy's team. That's what I love about working with you guys.
Yep.
You are very helpful.
Yep.
And if you have a problem with clarity and fining in general, these are the guys to problem solve for you. Very privileged to work closely with them and keep their products in stock for all you brewers in Ireland. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
We've covered the fining.
I'm just saying, like, we sell the Finings. If your beer isn't fined and it's not clear, and we've given you your Finings, it's our responsibility to make sure that we tackle it, and we'll do a lot of troubleshooting with you to make sure that your beer is clear.
Awesome.